parliamentarians, maybe not all of them, that approached Comrade Geza on that, right? And I am sure with his experience in Secret Service, he most definitely vetted them to see Kutavasvarakashere, who just want to counter the revolution, right? So that's number one. And I also believe, Kuti, Comrade Geza is not just an ordinary old man. I think he's very smart, he's very intelligent, and he also understands how the system works. And one thing that I know he knows for sure is that politics is a game of numbers. And he knows that there are numbers that are needed for this impeachment process to sail through. So I strongly believe that he knows that he's got the numbers that he needs from parliamentarians, maybe not from the Senate, but I believe, Kuti, the numbers that he needs are on track, right? So I also wanted to say that in Inangu, I am more on the optimistic side of things, and I believe that this impeachment process is going to be in our favor, right? Those of us that want to see Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa out of office. I don't think, Kuti, as much as we are saying that the parliament is captured, the fact that there are people who approached Comrade Geza shows that it is not as captured as we think it is. There are people in there. I think somebody said that there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies in politics. And in spite of the precab agreements or treaties, I think most parliamentarians are going to choose their political future over anything that they have received. I don't think Kuti Parliament is it comprised of people the same age as Mnangagwa, who is like in the end, towards the end, right? The sunset of his life. I don't think Kuti, a 30-year-old parliamentarian, a 40-year-old parliamentarian would love to align themselves or sacrifice their political future for an 80-year-old man who is actually mentally incapacitated. Because the issue of mental incapacitation, it's just being put in there to have Mnangagwa gone. The man is unwell mentally. The social media platforms are, there are so many videos to prove that. Because do we have a train? Those are things that are too obvious for anyone to forget, especially the president of the country. Saka, he is unwell. So I'm very positive, Kuti, this thing, impeachment, it's going to go in our favor. And I know that politicians, they will go in the side where the winds are blowing in terms of the numbers. I know, Kuti, as citizens, especially Isuzu Zimbabwe, we kind of feel like we are not powerful or we don't have a say in the political events or outcomes of our country. But I tell you, Kuti, if we continue supporting Comrade Geza online, continue, hashtagging Geza and just being positive about it, these that are in these corridors of power that are going to get to decide on this impeachment process, most of them would want to be heroes too. And finally, as I land, I just want to say that at the end of the day, I am not looking at Emmerson as this dictator, oppressor who must go. But to be honest with you, I'm a very compassionate person. At the end of the day, I'm really looking at him in his humanity. He's an elderly man and he's being abused and exploited by Shiganandas. And if that was my father, I would have definitely rescued him from the position that he's in, because it's destroying his legacy and just putting the country in a state here, Kuti. You've got this responsibility over your shoulders, and there are people coming to you because you are in a place of power and taking advantage of you. Saka at the end of the day ndoda kuti zvikananda pazvinoenda kucourt ngazvitongerwe elderly abuse because of what they are doing. These are people that are around him most of the times, and so they obviously know that he's got dementia, but they're taking advantage of him. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, but another charge you got more fans, elder abuse.
Yeah, but some of the comments, you really wonder, Pekutanga, I thought like he's just doing it for, because I think one a sense of humor, President, funny. So when he was asking questions, like for example, Easter, you wonder, was he really like joking or Muna serious? So I'm gonna with abuse for sure.
No, but more funny, okay. Like one guy would joke, he would do it on the microphone.
Yeah.
But you'd see good is, or you'd be consulting those around him. That in any that is where it is problematic for me. Kuti pamuri kuona pese paari kuragidza kuzungaira, he's speaking to vanhu vanenge vari around him.
Yes.
Because if somebody wants to be in jest and want to make it appear as if arukanda ake a joke, you would just do it like on the microphone. But he's first of all starting to be consulting folks around him. He is not understand, he's not in his faculties. He's somehow confused. He's not following. I don't know even stadium.
Yes.
You can begin to build this this evidence that speaks to somebody that is being affected by some form of cognitive impairment. Absolutely. Especially when it comes to memory loss, and that speaks to my issues.
Mwari wakagara pamvuri.
Yeah, and Saka, when you're looking at someone, because dementia, those that have that understands that one of the things that it does, it affects memory. There is memory loss, loss.
Yeah.
And pane zvinhu zvaunoexpecta kuti munhu ange achiremember achitondera things that should be in his short term memory, but munhu iye anogona kutadza remember, and they can they can find comfort in childhood memories. This is why they say kuti munhu anoita revert to being a child, because they're tapping more into their long term memory. Kana kurunzizo iri loss ningi yamai ari mwana mudiki, they will start to release that and stuff like that. But it's something that is immediate, something that you expect somebody to just step into there and there, because it's there in your short term memory. It's something that you can easily remember. He's demonstrating signs of a person who is cognitively impaired in terms of remembering things that are easy to remember.
And it's not an isolated one incident, isn't it?
Yes.
Actually point to 3, 4 that are public. That so
remember with this.
Exactly. What about the private uncle that
exactly.
So yeah. Vanogona taken advantage as well.
He's being told by people who are around him because if you wake up tomorrow,
wow.
This is what is supposed to be. I must say, I haven't seen the professional report when it comes to this diagnosis of the VD. But at the end of the day, you can begin to build, you can begin to, to build your evidence that speaks to, something of that sort. Because if I was a person who is undertaking a clinical diagnosis or clinical assessment or, of him, these are some of the things, that I can factor into my assessment. Kundiona kuti izo memory loss yake yakamira sei, cognitive impairment iripo here, and some of these things, can help me towards getting to that, diagnosis. They could maybe munhu maybe akanganisika brain dzake, and this is pointing to some form of dementia in which I would just behave in this way.
And I think what doesn't help is if there's an influence of alcohol as well. Combined with that. And we are talking of strong alcohol, not just these light ones. So you can imagine, Pakauma.
It damages brain food animal. Second, there's a lot, that is right. I know what when it comes to somebody's medical, information. I know what these guys they are saying, they've come across, that evidence, because it can only be evident from a specialist, from a certified individual who is a professional, who can be in a position to pass a diagnosis of this particular, disease that, we are talking about. And they're saying, they have, that evidence. How they got their hands to that evidence is something, that can be up for, discussion. But for them to then prepare a draft that speaks to this right here, it means that, they're sitting, on something.
They've got something. They definitely have got something.
Yeah,
that will be interesting. Interesting space to notice. Right. Anyway, let's move on, guys, to the next speaker. Right. So if I can give to Muzwankoso, you were dropping, please come through.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, your network is still bad, my brother. We can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're breaking off.
Can you hear me now?
You're breaking off.
Okay, let me just drop. Then you.
No, we
okay.
Can
I
hear
was
you
saying
now.
this thing is. Okay, I was saying this thing is started long back. That's why you see everything has been brought to president's office, because they are limiting people who are going to discuss direct him. But only those who knows kuti ane problem. Even ishe kuti zvinhu zvinoitirwa kufarms vese vari kuenda kuyaga vachitaura naye vanotoziva kuti ane problem. So zvinhu yakatangira kare, but chinhu chinonga chikura ka to the point yekuti now they now see kuti it's now affecting maduties anofanira kuita papublic. That's why you see after every sona he must always come to the parliament achibvunzwa achisupporta zvaanenge ataura maparliamentarians achibvunza, but they always cancel those things because they know kuti anokwanisa kungodhomoka ari pamberi because ari kurohwa dementia. Saka yakatanga kare, vane ground vakomana vari kuti anorohwa dementia, vanotozviziva zvakatanga kare. Then when it comes to politics, because it's ishema numbers, mukatarisa mamember parliament ezanu PF ari kunyanyobudikira shaura neze 2030 ndiwo ari kunyanya kungoti munonzwa vachi, because they know kuti their lifetime or their political life yakangosungirwa pakusapota iye.
Yeah, Muzwenkosi, you broken up again. Right, if you can try and fix your network,
thank you.
Maybe drop, then try and drop, maybe later come back again, because we can't hear you now.
Right, he's raising quite an important point more for your Kuti. If you look at Kuti, there are things that are being moved to the presidential office, and some of the decisions that are being made are being made there. And he's raising an important point, Kuti. This condition that we're talking about, one dementia has no cure. And two, it is a degenerative condition. It means that it gets worse, with the time. There's a progression, deterioration, the mind and the brain and how it is supposed, to be working. When you're considering it in a normal, human being with, who's mentally stable, who's mentally fit, or whose brain is still, working in a way kuti tingati izinto dziri kudhonza kana tingati uyu munhu ane capacity yekumeka ma-decisions. And then now, when you start to hear kuti the wife is getting more and more involved, when you're starting to hear kuti the children are getting more and more involved, when you start to hear kuti those who are surrounding him are starting to be more and more involved, then that speaks to a family, element that is, coming in making decisions on his behalf. But our problem, some of these things, if they're not put out there, and zvinoita kunge there is sort of a family capture of everything, and yet they are speaking to the family support that comes in when somebody who's got a degenerative condition like dementia. Kuti you end up seeing kuti family itself becomes more and more and more involved in making decisions on behalf of this individual. But you would find kuti my decisions manje anenge akumekwa, they are now sort of selfish decisions of people who are now realizing that their time is up. So when your time is up, you want to try to consolidate as much as possible. If it is accumulation of wealth, you want to do that as much as possible, such that when the time comes for you to be out, Kuti, you are getting out, you've got everything, and you can easily, get out. So looking at these things, you can, we can begin to be looking at these things around some of these things as noitika. When somebody was said to be having that condition, in that manner, because this individual, right now, right, okay, it does not necessarily mean good if somebody has got that condition, depending on the stage. There are times whereby they can regain their faculties, they can function properly. But there are times whereby if it really gets to them, they will not be in a position to be functioning, and this is where the decision making falls on the family. They end up making bad decisions. So right now he was in thing in Victoria Falls, opening and whatever, but you would find you be a person who will be closely being monitored in case he does not go astray in terms of his communication, in terms of his thinking, in terms of all these things. So we are looking at all these issues as zvinoitika nemunhu anenge aine condition anenge but is right to say kuti I mean, like what it is a progressive comes name my incidences atiri kutaura nezvawayo kuti if it's not reading something on a teleprompter, if he's saying something from the top of his head, that is where they can begin to be losing it, and it becomes evident, it becomes out there and visible. There's something wrong.
There's something that's not wrong. And you can imagine the people around him. That's something that they have tried to cover up, like especially when he goes in public places. It can happen privately, and they can deal with it. But exactly. I want to believe they would have tried to cover up any public misperformance or him saying like that. But I think there comes a stage, because it reminds me, I don't know if you remember, Uncle, there was a time, was there an auction? I think a year or so ago, and mukuru wanga wakabatwa nana iwo tinomachaka irena that he couldn't walk like.
Oh yes. How do we know he was drunk?
I know, but yeah, maybe it was the combination. But he was he was a microphone was on a distance there, and he was trying to give a speech. Then he was pulled to the microphone. Then yeah, it was really bad. But I think they just tried to cover it up and the asata would. But I mean, we are drawing so many cases, so many examples that we are pointing out. Good, okay, maybe if this thing has been happening, Chakato Tanga for a while, and if it's been happening, we are seeing cases in public places. So maybe these guys actually do have something in terms of that. But anyway, let's continue the conversation, guys. Can I try Ndini Zimbabwe?
Thank you, Uncle Tafina, Uncle Jedza. Thank you, guys. That's also Mamstaura, and that's where I've picked up some things that I'm going to speak about. Kuti unoona kuti tinoita setine case so Zimbabweans ekuti when they cling on to power, they don't really realize kuti takufana kuenda. We reach where we are. And honestly, from a human being point of view, it's sad. If we are to be honest, I mean, if that's the situation that is now impaired in terms of the way he thinks and stuff like that, it's a sad from just looking at an elderly person. However, nenyaya kuti tinenge tichitambudzikaona as people of Zimbabwe, tinopedzisira tangoti you know what, ndiko kuonesa, because tiri kuona kuti takuona some light, like we are going somewhere. I've been like I would say my favorite president, I mean not as a president, favorite statesman from United States of America was Joe Biden. And then I doubt singaiti kubva pandakatanga kututera politics dzaAmerica kuti Joe Biden aite president at some point. I was like, hey, this guy is just a perfect statesman. But one kunonoka netime wakazoona time yakazoita president, and one time yacho yakatonetsa zvakunetsa kuti ipere. Understand? Unenge wanonoka whereas issues ane chekuita nekukura zvirwere zvinobata vanhu vakuru starts to get to you now. And you saw kuti Papa with some moments where he needs to be, pampered around, like not to prepare so much that if he's going to speak to the public, you have to be careful what he's going to say. I mean, he was not with as some of these traits that have said.
Connection issue on the platform. Take note. Connection issue.
All right. Okay. No problem. Mirangi say adapt and no this one. Improve it.
Okay. Can I continue?
Yeah, please do so.
All right, thank you. So, when you are in the later stages of your life, and it will catch up with you. So that's why I'm saying, from a point of view, but from the point of view, political situation that's getting on the ground, you would say, I don't know, otherwise because now we have something that we are going to talk about. And it had the same issue with our former president, Robert Mugabe. During these twilight years, when people are now pushing him, and they failed to formulate a succession plan. And that's the same thing that we are still facing now. So what we are saying is, if Mugabe had left earlier, if Mnangagwa was meant to be president, he would have also come earlier. And probably by now, you would have said, okay, guys, I've done my part. Now I should be going. I should go and rest somewhere. But because Akazoyo later, you would want to continue there. And these things will now catch up with you. And then that's when you start to see again family members and stuff like that come to you. Come to his age. But my decisions are says guys, if we don't get it now, we won't have another opportunity because you are seeing the signs. We are approaching the end of the time for this man. So honestly speaking, it's a sad issue. Then the other issue that I was going to talk is, I may be taking this with a pinch of salt. mhuka inonzi garwe ka iri so cunning zvekuti mukasaita zvekuchenjera nayo ka it can play games. It can play games. It can always bide its time and stuff like that, behave in a certain way that maybe it's not seeing what's happening and stuff like that. And by then when the time comes, it just catches you. So ndikuti inini tinotarisa kuti mukuru vane mano ekuti vanogona kunge vachipota vachiita kunge pane zviri kuitika kana kuti vari kurasika njere or stuff like that. I'm not saying if it's real he's faking it, no, but I'm saying probably there's that chance because we don't know him, we don't see him every day, we don't stay with him. He could be buying his time and playing some tricks so that you would think okay, he's gone, and then one day boom, he's saying, who told you that I can prove that I'm fit and I'm ready to continue, even beyond the times that you think I'm going to rule. So we just have to be careful on that one. And structures. That has always been the issue with MNANGAGWA. The issue which was not there for pana Mugabe. Ukuthi Mugabe paitika noise dzaitika ari within the political party structures. But mukuru wedu manje aripo anota izvozvo zvekuti anenge achitora panenge pane maparallel structures zvigananda zviri kutaurwa mamilishia, people who say if you decide to go to Sitnas vanosvika votirova. But the lucky thing that we have is we know kuti in the corridors of power, in the real corridors of power, those people, they don't say anything. That's why I concur with the person who said muzanu PF ma MP arimo yes, anoita bhutlike kuti anenge achingotaura every day, president wedu azoti. And if you see it doesn't align with the party. It's all about the one man band. But there are also people, there are also MPs that we know they are quiet, they are playing a waiting game as well, that if it goes either way, we are always going to be found on the right position. We are just going, if it changes today, we will align ourselves. If it changes to the people, we will align ourselves with the people. If it changes to someone else, we are going to align ourselves with that someone else. If the old man continues, we are just going to appear as if we are supporting him and we are benefiting and we are gaining whatever we are going to benefit. So I think if is their position, as I'm assuming that's their position, that they know what they are doing, I think they have it in their hands that they discover that they are going to do an impeachment process. Maybe it will be successful, maybe it won't be successful because it depends on numbers. Maybe they know that they are going to pull it. Maybe they know that they have got a certain something that they are hold on to, certain evidence that they are hold on to, and they are going to prevail at the end of the day. Because for sure, that's what we are wishing for. I might land with that. That's what we are wishing for Zimbabwe to be, functioning. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, my brother Ndini Zimbabwe, for that analysis of yours. Some interesting points there that you mentioned, especially in terms of Mukainon's crocodile. Kuti musaite underestimate or underpin, but sometimes kana yakura anyway. Ameno zvinoitika kumberi. But no, thank you, my brother, for that.
Okay.
Smart as right. Smart as a dropper. Okay, Nkoma Charima, you've had your hand up for a while. I don't know if you spoke before I came.
I spoke before, but it was not this session.
Okay, you want to the impeachment? Please go ahead.
Draft. Yes, Mukainonzi Garwe. Ini ndakaiona. I will share you the picture. Ichitakurwa nembada kubviswa mumvura achiendwa nayo. So it is possible. Yakateerwa mumvura imomo nembada. Okay, fine. I think we need to speak to the draft itself. I'm realizing people are talking to what if and things like that. I did not see the whole draft, but I think I heard Ango Jedza saying it is a 6-page draft. To me, the draft is not big enough, because a whole president cannot be removed by just 6 pages. And those 4 pages I read, which was pinned on top there, they did not quote step by step our constitution. We saw a lot of presidential scheme. It did not speak to us where is it prohibited by the president to have those schemes. How about if he was doing something above the board? We cannot have a document that just sing things without references. Even there's a passage I read which was talking of him being incapacitated mentally, and it said that he cannot give a good judgment to policies. That alone is not enough, because a president is not supposed to give a judgment to a policy and everything ends there with him. Policies, we know that they are made by government arms and policy makers. So what does the constitution say about the president making policies? But I agree basically that if someone is having a dementia and is mentally incapacitated, that victim is very dangerous. Uh, if it is the case and if they have a medical report, it should be a matter of urgency, because if Ango Jed is holding a knife in his hands and he is mentally incapacitated, we really need to rush, number one, to disarm him from the knife, because he is a danger to himself to begin with. He might stab himself and die, or he is a danger to the people around him. In this case, if it is as it is being said that he is having this disease, he is a danger to our nation, because he is a man who command machineries of war. If God, he commands big guns, he commands security departments. Uh, if his mental health is not well, he's bound to put every Zimbabwean on a security threat. Kana motikari ichidhiraivwa nebenzi, zviri kureva kutoti vanhu vese mapassengers ari mumota imomomo, your life is at risk, because nekupenga kwake anogona kunanga muti kana kubuda munzira. What am I saying here? If the driver is mentally incapacitated, it means that every passenger who is in that vehicle that is being operated with someone who is not having a sound mind has risked his or her life. So I've seen some documents when presidents were being impeached before. Our document, unless if there is something out there that is not what we are seeing, it's not good enough. It has to be big. It has to come with references. It has to say on 23 June 19 whatever 2018 16 or whatever date, the president acted like this at this time. That is a sign of dementia. on this day, the president did this, and this is why we are saying, look, Zimbabweans, this guy has got a problem somewhere. But to me, looking at this document that I'm seeing here, it's not good enough to prove, even in the court of law, although I'm not an advocate or a lawyer, but those who have read law, they know that it is not giving us references, which is good enough to say, let us come up with a committee to go in and investigate. Maybe they're doing it deliberately, that they don't want to preempt, but they should come up with something better. This one is shallow. Even if you try and put it to an immigration lawyer who is deciding a case of an individual, 6 pages is just too small. You are bound to lose. So let's speak to the document itself first before we talk of the effects it is going to cause. Are we going to sail through with this kind of a document? Are we going to win with this kind of a document? Or we are going to now say, Ango Jedza, connection issues again?
All right, we'll try to text him. Please go ahead, Owen. Owen, come on, you can continue. Right, and it drops. Okay, right. Can I go to Edwin? Edwin Tapiwa. Edwin.
Yes, Mkoma. Ndambotaura zangu mugona ndibvisa pamaspika zangu.
Okay, that's
yes,
fine.
Thank
all
you.
Right. Can I go to Sibs then?
All right. Baba pakanaka zviri sei ikoko. All right. You know that isusu maZimbabwean tine moyo murefu too much. This issue is I've been going. It was going through my head the whole week. I'm thinking, Geza, is he for real or is not? Impeachment. Really, ndikuzvibvunza kuti kuZimbabwe kune mutemo here chaicho. If we tikada kutaura chokwadi chaicho, kune mutemo here kuZimbabwe. I'm not in Zimbabwe. Okay, I've been in South Africa now for 19 years already, but I normally come and visit time and again. And one day, hopefully, I'll be at home because I am sick and tired of being here. Okay.
I think mutemo riko, but it's applied selectively.
Yeah, makatanga kudaro ipapo ndo pane problem, but selectively it looks like takada kuisa on a scale of 100, it looks like the majority, like the 95 people that were arrested, where are they right now? I've been asking myself, I didn't go through the press today to check how far Nyazo. I just said Nyawe was remanded until 22 April. And we're talking of that other journalist who is also in prison. We're talking of Job Scala, who was in prison for no reason, just for remote setting your cry. I'm sure even right now what I'm saying on this platform, I can be also arrested, because that's what it means to Zimbabwe and the government, that if ever you say something against them, you get arrested. There's no freedom. So I'm asking, yes, you're saying selectively, but 99% of it looks like it's only upholded on when you're against the government. It's very scary. It's very scary. Then come Geza. Geza comes with an impeachment. I'm thinking like, how many elections did we really go to vote against it? I voted during Changrai's time. I think we were one of the patriotic youth during that time. We were going for that raid, that chinja, and all the stuff. I wasn't actively involved, but we were really supporting Changrai that time. And I remember that's the last time I voted. And the other elections I never voted because I never bothered to. And then we voted and we knew we won and we knew we were going to remove Mugabe, and Mugabe knew it. He admitted that he was beaten, but now technically, okay, just because it was against them, they had to use, I don't know, constitution actually. I never really read into depth when regarding the constitution of Zimbabwe, but it looks like Morgan Tsvangirai didn't have the required percentage, whatever, which is a lie, okay. But during that time, we knew Zimbabwe, we turned it around. We turned against ZANU-PF. We voted against ZANU-PF. It was majority, but technically we lost it. Fair and fine. So all these elections from Morgan Tsvangirai that I know, I don't want to talk about the previous ones. Going forward, I've heard people feel we've been cheated, we've been rigged, and all this stuff. So for us to bring an impeachment at this time, when we know already when it comes to zvakafanana nekuti tinopinza formality, it doesn't work in Zimbabwe. It doesn't work. How many people have gone to Makotsi formality and still they are being denied their freedom? So what do you think you would get from impeachment when you know there's no rule of law in Zimbabwe? It's how the ZANU-PF feels about it, and if they feel it's not going to be in their advantage, why do you think the law would or the justice will uphold the impeachment or whatsoever? So I think somehow there's something wrong. There's something wrong, seriously, about this impeachment. We should have gone for our uprising, because I've heard uprising, demonstration. Stay away after that night, after the whole thing. But as far as I'm concerned, when the days towards the third one ends, uprising. Okay, let's define these words. Then uprising, demonstration, stay away. Those are two different things. But people stayed away. Okay, it's fine. It was a good thing and a good initiative. It's fine whether we stayed away or demonstration, but the definition of that day up to today is still confusing me, because if it is an uprising, we should have been going now toy inside the streets, day 1, day 2, day 3. That's uprising. I've seen people in Malaysia, in Asia, staying usiku wese mu street vasingabude demand whatever they are demanding for. So if we were demanding that MNANGAGWA through uprising, then we should have been doing it up to today. Then all of a sudden, jiki zvachinja out. Takuda kuendesa udata zvirifoma they've started nezvezvirifoma pekutanga, then itozoita zvetoi kana zvarambaka zveimpeachment zvacho. And we're doing the things. I think Mdara is a bit confused also. Can I read dementia? I'm sure naye Gezane dementia futi, because zvinhu zvaari kutaura nezviri kuitika zviri kusiyana, pane pazviri kukanganisa, or maybe my ideas ari kubva kune vanhu vakawanda, but I think this thing should have been thought thoroughly before we go on air, before we talk to the masses. This is a very sensitive issue, guys. I don't want to lie to you. And playing with us, our emotions. In Nangwandunya, after the impeachment, I just thought it's finished. There we go again. You're wasting my time. But I've been listening on this platform, this space for since Wango and Gutwaruti share about it. Yeah, we all have mixed feelings about it. But maybe I might be watching too much movies. I think Geza kutamba na MNANGAGWA. There's something going on. Panama tricks are because MNANGAGWA was clearly saying he's a mafia. He knows all the tricks. He is the mastermind of all these things. He once said it. I think I was listening to him some other time. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember saying, I'm the mastermind. And it was there, as you say. So, Majon, So you start thinking, but but anyway, I don't want people to lose hope or discourage people who feel there's a good cause from this man. Let's see how it goes. But Nangwa, somewhere from where I was towards the one Pandawe right now, I think command. That's all I can say. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Koma Sibs there, with that analysis of yours. The only question that I would want to ask, because you said if it was an uprising, then people should have been in the streets or maybe continued. But then Geza did call for people to protest, right? People, he said, Buddha in a one when. But can we not give it back to you people, to Magaramba Buddha, Monagu Buddha? But he did call for you guys to, only a handful of people managed to actually go in the streets to protest. Unless
95 is more than enough.
People never believed him. But I think what he did show, that it showed how people, how fragmented, how different people are, because some had the guts to actually go and protest, and some didn't. But if you also read, fun thing is, if you go to the Zimbabwe Republic Police website on the 1st of April, they wrote that the ZRP commends the public for the peaceful environment which generally characterized the whole country on 31st of March. Currently, the security situation is calm, with police officers fully deployed on the ground in all parts of the peaceful country. But yet, even them, after saying that, we had 95 people that are in prison right now. But this was a very peaceful demonstration. So what are those people doing in prison? Anyway,
so you're not allowed to demonstrate. That's what it means, Mose. Even if it's your right to do it, but you're not allowed to do it because they say so. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, my brother, for that. Thank you. Right. When Chari dropped, do you want to finish your submission?
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I was talking of the impeachment draft itself. Zimbabweans, we should not try and analyze a lot and say, how is this going to be possible? We should not leave this whole ball in his hands. If you have knowledge of anything that is workable, he is trying. And what he is trying for Zimbabweans. He is pushing impeachment because it is another route. There's no monopoly in this struggle that this is the only plan and solution. Impeachment is one of those. So to me, I recommend what he is doing. He is not putting the eggs in one basket. But what I was speaking on was, let us beef the draft, the impeachment document itself, so that it will be effective. What is our contribution? I think that is the reason why the draft was pinned up there, for us to talk on the draft itself. Maybe the topic is not paraphrasing enough, but it is not talking of the fails of impeachment or the unexpected that might happen. But what can we do with this tool that we have? How do we make it better? How do we make it effective? Forget about how MNANGAGWA, how strong he is. When you're playing a game, you go to the game with the intention to win. You are not worried that your opponent has more money or they have a good uniform, good looking uniform, but you are worried on scoring more than them. So we should not go into this struggle doubtfully or in fear of anything. There is something that I always talk of. Time is the best prophet of everything. When time is up, Mnangagwa will go. Even if we think that he is as strong as an iron hand man, whatever. I've seen it before that there are so many leaders who were untouchable, but they've left the throne. But they did not just leave willingly. People have pushed them out. People have employed different methods and skills. So let us unite together as Zimbabweans, bring different plans and different skills that we have. But I was asking people who are here to speak to the document itself, the contents of the documents, those who have got legal knowledge. Is this document strong enough legally? Is it holding waters? Because maybe it's not strong enough. What can we do to make it strong? That's what that's my contribution on this impeachment draft. Thank you so much, Ango Tetas.
Right. Thank you so much, Mkoma Owen Chari, for that. Appreciate it. Ango muripo erapo, mchiripo era.
Awa ndiripo ndatumirwa isamari yapiwa ningine grok. Ango, here's the full impeachment draft summary in bullet form, straight to the point. Grounds for impeachment. The motion targets Zimbabwe president under section 97 of the 2013 constitution, citing inability to perform duties due to lack of mental capacity and willful violation of the constitution. Mental capacity concerns, it claims the president's decisions show cognitive decline, leading to failures in governance, economic mismanagement, and inability to handle national security or diplomatic issues. The specific allegation speaks to billions lost in shady deals like the Kuvimba mining house and treasury bills linked to the president and his allies. A US 1.6 billion a scandal involving state funds through illegal loans tied to the president's associates, bribery and corruption, including a US 100 million fraud cover with the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Constitutional violations accuses the president of schemes like the presidential goat scheme and others that allegedly funneled public funds to cronies. Economic fallout highlights a US 9 billion debt increase under his watch with no sustainable repayment plan, plus a US 21 billion rise in external debt since 2018. Investigation Corps requests a joint committee to probe these claims and the president's fitness to lead. So that was, the draft that was produced by, and the Grok, though, that AI, platform. Saka, that is what it is provided in a nutshell. Neyandatumirwa baba hanzizoningi ndo zvataurwa ningina Grok hanzi atisamaraizira na kubva kuna Mkoma Cow. But anyway, pakaipa.
Ango Jeza ndimaona what I'm speaking on kuti Grok iri kutotaura kuti pane mari yakati yakabiwa, pane zvakati zvakaitika, constitution yakazonzwai apa neapa. That we are not seeing in this document. We are just hearing kuti presidential scheme. What about presidential scheme? How much, what are the figures involved? We don't have those figures. So if they can beef up and add some references to the draft, then it will be strong and admissible in the court of law. That's what I'm just thinking.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm reading 4.51.
Because I summarize that document, but it's only 4 pages. And the summarize, there are 2 more pages that I not included. But Mkoma Cow, I summarize the 4 pages that are they asked Grok to summarize those 4 pages. So maybe if they were all 6 pages, maybe the summary could have could have been more. But as it stands, right now, That is, the summary that is coming from that AI platform.
Yeah.
Impeachment inoenda kunani? Inoenda kunani impeachment kana yanzi ya draft? Who receives it?
Impeachment table wakani in parliament.
Oh, inoverengwa nani?
Inotabulwa parliament then yoverengwa kana na speaker of parliament.
Speaker of parliament.
Okay. So anozopa vanotwa my election
aiwa then pana mukoma vauya vachitaura maprocesses anozoitika kuti it goes to a committee yeparliament imomo zvoita sei pana maprocesses anobva aitwa initiated.
Okay, but
haibva yangoenda straight inenge to a vote. No, it doesn't go straight to a vote. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Vandoenda through maprocesses okutoti iye Emmerson Mnangagwa wacho is also given time to respond.
Okay, all right.
Yes, it's not
chero pakunzi dementia hazvisi kungotaurwa. The doctor is going to be assigned to see if he's having that sickness.
Yeah, if they want a second opinion, because vane evidence from a doctor. Saka zvinenge zvakudependa manje kuti doctor provided this evidence. The doctor wa Emmerson Mnangagwa here.
Zvinenge chiri muparliament rana zviri under committee. Remember,
it's still parliament.
Okay.
Because it's a committee in parliament.
Apa nepautwa inenge yatonge yatomunyaya yake yatomukotika because kana pautotedzwa matestimony which means yatoita court, so inenge under parliament kana inenge yapfura paparliament yakunda
under parliament itself and zvakafanana ne pakachadzwa anonzani Bennett. Do you know Bennett kuenda kwakaita mujeri akatedzwa that crime yakasolverwa nge parliament.
Okay.
Akatoenda kujeri akanoseva ningwani.
All right. So my discussion is angachitwa under a member of parliament.
Because it now becomes a parliamentary process involve both houses.
Yes.
Right. The Senate and the House of Commons here in Zimbabwe. The House of Commons.
Sorry,
the House of Lords here in Zimbabwe and the House of Commons.
All right.
One quick note, we need to beef it up. So I went online because the president, who remember, the person who impeached was Donald Trump. In all those two, the articles, the first one is a 6-page document. The other one is a 3-page document. Then I don't think they would share all their annexures online. So probably they will submit annexures, but I just wanted to respond to Papa. It doesn't really need to be a very long document because under what Trump, the first one didn't go through, the other one I think it went through.
Okay.
So I just wanted to raise that.
Because these are charges that are leveled against the president.
Yes. So
then panozoenda through committees manje apa ndo panenge pakuzoongororwa the evidence. That is there.
Anisimba rekusamona president in parliament and the speaker of parliament. Ndianomusamona kuti uyashamaru utaure upindure nyaya dzako idzi.
Because I remember kuti parliament is a different branch altogether.
I avapiwe instruction from the president. I understand.
No.
Yes, yeah.
The president is the executive. Parliament is another branch of the government, and then the judiciary. Saka manje apa inenge ya game yakutambwa ne parliament. If it then requires the judiciary, it's another process manje inenge yakuzoitwa yakuitwa nenge brought in. Kana if Mnangagwa wants to have that side of the thing or of the of the government's arm to come in, but game the parliament according to what is stipulated, according kana paine ma schedules anotaura kuti an impeachment inoenda so
yes.
And which I think is already established.
Why I'm asking that? Sorry guys. Why I'm asking that? Remember in Zimbabwe,
we have one of the most powerful president anema rights akanyanya kupfuura mapresident ese the whole world. You know that? Constitution yemuZimbabwe yakapa masimba akapiwa kuna president. Okay.
Can I help you on that one?
All right.
What you are made to believe is not true.
Is it?
We see a picture that the president of Zimbabwe has got powers, but in actual fact, he doesn't have powers. The people have got power through the MPs which are elected. That's why it has to go through parliament. And actually, the sequence of the things is when the MPs hear of the story, they're supposed to go to the areas, constituencies they represent, and consult with the people and come back to parliament, because the president has no power more than anyone else. Like you were asking, who can summon him to come? The parliament has got power to say, Mr. President, come here. We've got ABCD that we want to ask about. There's some GOT scheme that we suppose that we hear is not going well. There are tenders like this, but in Zimbabwe it's not happening. Why? Because people think that he is not touchable. No, but but it's not the case. That's not how it is supposed to be.
Now we grew up knowing good Mugabe hapana nomudzi chekutaura because as far as we know Mugabe, but everyone report to Mugabe. Even institutions that are not supposed to report to the president, vanongo report on the president because we had all this idea that Zunjese involved the president. So that's how we grew up in Zimbabwe. Let's be honest. Apana aimboudza Mugabe kuti shamari uya kunokuyo. There's never been such.
Repeated lies does not mean it's true. Repeated lies is not truth.
Okay.
But it has never happened.
The last amendment. The last amendment. The Malava amendment. That amendment, Malava amendment, it gave MNANGAGWA specific powers. And these specific powers relates to him making the decision on the appointment of the head of the judiciary. And it gave him the power yeku appointer my vice president. And that was necessitated by the removal of the running mate clause. Because they had
automatically,
yes, had that running mate clause remained before we went to the 2023 election. It meant with by election pai electwa my presidents. Vice president I to electoral is a running mate one. Saka Nelson Chamisa would have his running mate, and the other, everyone involved would have their running mates. Besides that, whoever is elected, their running mate is also elected.
Automatically,
the position of the vice president becomes an elected position in Zimbabwe. But that amendment, yakaita kuti Malava aipiwe an extension, and yakaita kutizo paite an extension ye the women's quota. That actually gave Emerson Mnangagwa the power to then appoint my vice presidents.
It essentially
so it means my vice presidents, they are serving at the mercy of the president. We are now back to my situations. Mugabe could fire Emerson Mnangagwa. And that is now the power that Emerson Mnangagwa has. Yekuti mangwana chai akada kufuma akadzinga General Chiwenga. General Chiwenga anofuma akamudzinga General Chiwenga. Usini muswera achiverenga imwe tsamba. Fanike yakaverengwa na anunzani uyu niwekufa uyu. Kablazi kapfupa. Hayi wakapfupa kakaverenga tsamba ikudzinga Emerson Mnangagwa.
Anonzi Simon Kayamoyo.
Simon Kayamoyo, yes. That is what Saka he clawed back some of the powers akaisa under his remit. Yes.
He has too much power,
Chief Justice.
essentially.
Yes, so that added to the powers, that he has.
Is there any situation where he can be challenged? Say if he comes, for example, Oscar Zinga VP, is there any challenge or
No, he can't be challenged
No.
because these people, they are serving at his pleasure.
It's now constitutional right now.
They're serving. They're serving, and he can make a decision. Uyu ndakumvisa uyu ndakuisa ningi, uyu ndakumvisa uyu ndakuisa ningi. Kana even look Malawa mangwana chai akada kumuka itaratizo look Malawa is no longer the chakuti vanongomvisa kuisa mumwe ningi.
is he obliged to put the reasons though behind whatever that decision?
No.
Iwe Titus ukabatswa mari yechingwa ukatanga kuba mari iyoyo siblings ako haakubvise ipapo, but munhu ari kukubatisa mari yechingwa ndiye anongokubvisa.
But I think it's that law needs to be repealed. It needs to be changed, surely.
Ndosaka makaona kuti there was that uproar yekuti the opposition yanga iri muparliament. Ndosaka makaona Dagi akaedza kuda kuningirikina, akaedza kuda explain his way out of that. Kuti isusu were given when we looked at that amendment, there are certain things that we considered, and we did a trade-off, and they said kuti the fact that kuti pari kunzizo vakadzi vari kuwedzerwa their tenure because because the 2013 election the 2013 constitution yanga yakapa a grace period of 10 years. Could some of the things zvanga zviripo after 10 years zvinoita sei zvinobva ningi zvaita season ningi to exist, like the women's quota. Saka makazona Dagi paitaura kuti takaongorora tikati the women's quota is something that is important. Saka we pakaita trade off, it was a trade off yakaonekwa iri necessary, and also to bring in the youth chakuti it was a trade off yakanga iri necessary for for them to make. And more what? Saka chigame chacho chakangotambwa in that way, but at the end of the day, when you are now looking at everything that is going on, can you still justify that trade-off that
No, you can't.
Exactly.
Trade-off hapana zvarutombotaura.
But tikataura chokwadi constitution anambonyanyochinjwa sterect. Chatakangofarira chete ndechekuti president is only getting 2 terms. Let's be honest. That constitution inoda kutonadzo refreshwa patsva chaipo because zviri kuitika ukoko mutemo
amkoma constitution guy. Okay. I know hangu kuti nemadhuku as an individual who was there from the beginning with the National Constitutional Assembly as an organization that was pushing for a new constitution. He does not agree with that constitution. But what that constitution did, yakakwanisa kugadzirisa some of the things that were not there palancaster house ningi constitution. Problem yatakaita mukati menyika yedu yeZimbabwe ndeyekuti after the adoption of the new constitution, what was supposed to happen was to do an alignment of the laws zemunyika yeZimbabwe to the new constitution, and that is still something that is yet to be done completely in its entirety, to make sure kuti mutemo yedu align to the constitution. Ndosaka muri kuona kuti vana hopwewo vakachajwa a law that does not exist, a law of spreading falsehoods under the current constitution that does not exist. But under the previous constitution is something I think that was there. But even though it was outlawed, even though it was outlawed, but still we needed to align our books so that our books eliminate some of these. Kuitira kuti mapurisa edu kana achinge vakuchaja vanhu avarely on mutemo
the old culture
isimo muconstitution medu.
Yeah. Chochokwadi ichocho.
All right. No, thanks for that explanation, Uncle. Thanks. Okay, let's move. Smartest, you haven't spoken. Please come through.
Thank you so much. How is everyone doing? Ango Gerard msada kuti jairira imewe. Ndo zanambo requested ango microphone kuti musatomboda kuti majokes asinangana basi. Right? Msada kuti majokes. But I guess you guys, we are now talking about the impeachment process. But maybe before I put in my input, I just wanted to say thank you to Ango Gerard and Ango Titus. You are the best combination ever. I think in terms of the top 10 influential people from Zimbabwe, you are in the top 5 together with my president, Nelson Chamisa. All right, you are in the top 5 there because you lead the conversation. You have created a brand, right? Because you come to, and this is my daily routine. I work in sales, so there's a lot of driving and traveling that I do. So what I do is when I get into my car, I log into my X from my car, then look for Ango Gerard space, then connect there, then drive for 1 hour, 2 hours, right? Listening to the spaces and listening to my fellow brothers and sisters. So because of that, I have cut on my Apple Music bill by $10 every month because I know that there is entertainment. The only problem is the entertainment. I'm not so sure how, other business people from Zimbabwe can come through and advertise their products. I thought it would be a very good initiative. It's something that I think that Ango Gerard was also looking into, to say from our interactions, our daily interactions, is there anything that we can do as Zimbabweans to support each other in our different, business sectors, different communities? There might be people out there who are working in HRR, right, helping new immigrants, right, and maybe just a 5 or 30 seconds advert on Ango Gerard space, obviously with a premium. I think it will make a lot of sense. Because Ango, I was just looking at the minimum requirement, like for wages here in Canada. I think per hour in Ontario is like $17 per hour. In the UK, I think you guys are around 15 US, 16 US per hour. And this is minimum wage for someone who is 22 years and above, right? But when you look at Ango, right, someone who's been working as a lecturer in a tertiary college, your minimum wage, you are looking at maybe more than 40 or close to $40, $50 per hour, right? I'm just trying to demonstrate the value that you bring. And in most cases, you are bringing this value pro bono, right? You come to a space with your co-host, Titus, you guys, I think the space on Monday, you spent more than 12 hours in that space, right? We listened to many views from Zimbabweans for 12 hours, right? If you had gone to your workplace or to your job, that's like more than $600, right? More than $600 at the rates, depending on your hourly, wage requirements, right? And the other thing that I also wanted to mention is it's very difficult to run a space. I tried it, right? Some 3-4 years ago, and I failed because what it meant was I could not answer my phone, of which I rely on my phone for survival. Without my phone, I cannot do anything, right? Like I'm a sales guy, right? So obviously I close my deals on the phone, right? So if I were to open a space, it means I would need to put myself on do not disturb. something that I cannot do because I'll end up losing thousands of dollars. I'm not just looking at the hourly rates, right? And also you need, I don't know for your phones, guys, if you need some air cons or what, to make sure that, it's not heating up and all that, right? Because if Twitter, one thing about Twitter, drain a battery that much. So which means even phone yako inopedzera yafa at some point. I'm not so sure angle. There are times when I will be like, oh, let me switch devices, which means we have devices that are put aside for spaces, right? Something that we cannot afford to take lightly. So I'm speaking here as someone who has tried. We're running our Scandalous Wednesdays, right? It was just a weekly program on Wednesday. But the reason why we are not having Scandalous Wednesday is because of other commitments. It's difficult, to do the research, right? Proper research. Then you come through on a Wednesday, you run, the program. You're moderating the spaces and all that. But you guys, you can go all week from Monday to Sunday uninterrupted, and the level of decorum that you maintain in the spaces. That's why I was giving an example to say, in football, I don't know, you guys, if you know Peter Drury and Jim Begley, right? That's the best combination ever. When you are following, the Premier League, even the World Cup. I heard Peter Drury is no longer. You guys, you don't have him in the UK now. I think he's now here in North America, right? Could even Dynamos versus Cape United, Rukutambirwa Kumushana Stadium. The moment you bring Peter Drury and Jim Begley, it will sound like a World Cup final. That's Ango Gerard and Ango Titus there in terms of your spaces. Because people who come through here, some will be daydreaming, some will come with their wild expectations, emotions, and all that. But you guys, you are always there, to give people their voices, platforms where you value each and every input. And there are people like Wendas. I'm not going to mention myself, obviously. There are people like mentors who have the habit of interrupting other people, bullying, and all that, right? But you guys, you are there. And I think we should learn one or two things from your emotional intelligence, right? Because one thing that I learned when I was in college from Gorman was, emotional intelligence is about self-regulation. Just knowing to say, okay, what are the things that motivate me? What are the things that motivate you as a human being? What are the things that motivate Ango Gerard and Ango Titus to say, oh, tomorrow, let's do it again, right? I think day before yesterday, Ango spent the whole day without eating nothing, right? So it takes some self-motivation there to say, hey, I'm doing it this. Why am I doing it? Someone who might ask, right? Or leaving, your Facebook. I think in Facebook, you guys were very much positioned with Zimbo Live and what, but saying, okay, I'm gonna take a risk, with spaces and the way you manage to turn around this whole thing. Ango, I can spend the whole day because I remember the days that you came through to spaces, right? I still remember those days up until you said, okay, let me go and open mine. Maybe you had picked one or two things from our spaces, how biased they were, or some of them were a lot of echo chambers. Maybe you had gone to general chats, Chichimrenga and all that. And you were like, no, let me open a space. And this is the kind of space that we need. And I don't know how you identified Titus, right? Because we heard him, we never knew that, he had that as a key strength. Like I said, I can spend the whole day, but just to tell you, Ango, we value you, Ango Titus. We really appreciate you. And most of the guys who come through to spaces, I know if I come to a space, I'm going to meet Nkoma Owen Chari. I know I'm going to meet Mwendas. I know I'm going to meet Tino, my Scandalous Wednesday team, Nkoma Denford, right? So these are our communities, right? These are our communities. You drive for 4 hours, 5 hours, okay, the space will be there. I remember Ango last year during summer when you decided to take a break. I think you went on vac sometime in August. Was it July, August? Right? And Ango, just open a space. Guys, I'm on vac and the network is just pathetic where I am. And I think at some point you were forced to open a space maybe for 30 minutes or so last year. That's how important Ango is. So in that top 10 and that top 5, just to show you how influential are you. You are in the top 5 together with Nelson Chamisa and you find people like the traditional guys like the international award-winning journalists. You find them top 30, number 25, 26. But Ango Gerard and Ango Titus Murimo top 5, because it's either someone is saying Nelson Chamisa or someone is saying Ango Gerard, thank you. My brother Titus, thank you. Right. So if you were to look at the, ask Grok to say the names that are mentioned the most on Zimbo Spaces, or Zimbo on X, you see that Ango Gerard and Ango Titus names are up there. So this speaks to the value, and this speaks to how you have changed and how you have shaped, the current narrative in terms of, the struggle that we have. Now, let me move to the impeachment draft. Right. I am opposed to impeachment, and I'm going to say this for these reasons. I think there are only 3 reasons. First reason, right, the argument that was being put forward by my fellow diplomats, my fellow progressive brothers and sisters, OT, Owen Chari, Wendas. I will mention these 3 because they are my close brothers. And they know that by mentioning the names, I'm not trying to belittle them. I'm not trying to attack them. But we are just discussing politics, how our views are a little bit divergent, on our divergent views. Right. Their argument for supporting Geza was, let's deal with MNANGAGWA because he's the most powerful guy in ZANU-PF. Right? So they said, we are going to, once we have removed MNANGAGWA, then we have a ZANU-PF that's somewhat weak. And I know Mkoma Tino, my brother Tino down there, he has moved that motion as well to say, let's deal with MNANGAGWA. Once we have removed MNANGAGWA, ZANU-PF without MNANGAGWA is a weak ZANU-PF, right? It's their point of argument. I did not agree with that argument, but that's okay, right? I understood where they were coming from, because there is some there's some sense, a lot of logic in that, in as far as from a strategic point of view, right? So this was their view 2 days ago. Now they've made an about 10 to say we need to impeach MNANGAGWA because of incapacitation. I'm like, how do you want to remove MNANGAGWA? 2 days ago, you were saying he's the most powerful guy. Once we have removed him, things are going to be okay. It's better to deal with Chiwenga. Then 24 hours later or 48 hours later, that same guy is being accused of suffering from dementia. He's accused to be, he's not himself. He's being controlled virtually and remotely by the Maveteras and his girlfriends from CBMD and Borodale down there. Right. So I have a problem there to say, how are you guys? It's either you choose one side. Are you fighting MNANGAGWA because you believe that is the most powerful guy? Right? And if you are going to remove him, then you mean you have a ZANU-PF political party that's weak. Or you just want to remove MNANGAGWA because incapacitated. Because if someone is incapacitated, it means they're not effective. Right? They are suffering from ED, just like what my brother Herbert has just confessed on a space. To say, you know what, guys, I look back, my back used to be that, right? But now, that's what he said on the space. And I'm just pulling your leg, Herbert, there, right? So that's MNANGAGWA for you. So if he's incapacitated, if he cannot function, if he cannot carry himself around, yes, intoxicated or what, then guys, we cannot then turn on the other side and accuse MNANGAGWA to be the most powerful guy, or to accuse MNANGAGWA because of the faults or the problems that we are facing in Zimbabwe. But there has to be some power behind, and I know there's a counter argument. People will come through and say, no, there's a force. MNANGAGWA, there are criminals around MNANGAGWA, and we are targeting those criminals. And those criminals are now auxilia remote control. Right. Then I would ask and say, okay, so if you're going to remove someone who is being remote controlled, what guarantees do you have that those that were remotely controlling him are not going then to replace him according to our constitution? But the constitution is very clear, right? If you impeach someone, then you are leaving everything to ZANU-PF to choose a replacement to finish off the term. And once they've finished off the term, then we can go back to the election, right? Which brings me to my second reason why I'm not in support of this impeachment, right? You are going to take it to parliament. I liked my brother. There's a brother who was here, I think I started with the seeds, who was asking questions. And the way he was asking questions, but these questions were kind of deliberate to say, okay, you said who is going to read this impeachment? And people were like, no, it's the parliament, the speaker of parliament. Right, and Ango Gerard Vatipa, the state, how it functions, or the the separation of duties to say, hey, we've got the legislature, the executive, the judicial, and all that. In an ideal setup or ideal country, that's what you would find. But for you guys to expect Mdenda, who is not captured or remote controlled this time around by ZANU-PF, if you are going to believe that, then I will believe my brother Titus if he tells me that if you go to the avenues today or Patach line, you meet a prostitute who's still a virgin, right? It's something that's very difficult to believe, right? We know the parliament is captured. They've demonstrated it through Chabangu. ZANU-PF has spent a lot of money just trying to capture the parliament. And MNANGAGWA has been the one like in the forefront running with this. So having these guys, after they've invested all this, for you to just say, you know what, in parliament, we need to move the motion without looking at the requirement to say, you need half of the parliamentarians to vote for this motion. And by half, what are we talking about? The lower house has got how many members? I think 300, right? 300 MPs there, members of parliament. Then the upper house, I think it has got something like 100. So that's like 300, right? So you need 50% plus one, which is maybe 151 MPs to vote in favor of the motion. And remember, when you vote in favor of the motion, it's not like the impeachment process is done in parliament. You don't have to meet MNANGAGWA outside parliament. That process is done and MNANGAGWA is gone. Now all his power has been removed and everything, right? You are going through the motion today. You are voting as 151 people. After that, you still meet MNANGAGWA at the Jongwe or whatever, their headquarters at some point in time, whilst this process is taking its course. So if you could look at it realistically, my fellow brothers, and say, those MPs who are there in parliament on ZANU-PF, not just ZANU-PF, even our opposition, I would call them opposition MPs. And most of them, they know that they are never coming back in 2028. I can give the examples here, right? They know for sure that they are in this office, this is their last term. So when you see them siding with ZANU-PF, it makes a lot of economic sense to them. I put economic sense in quotes, right? It makes economic sense. What is it that you are going to say, Owen Chari, to these MPs? What is it that you are going to promise these MPs, right? That's going to sway them. That's going to sway them so that they don't risk their lives. They don't risk persecution from MNANGAGWA. They don't risk persecution from those that are capturing MNANGAGWA, Shigananda, et al. Right? What is it that you are going to offer them? Both opposition MPs and also ZANU-PF MPs, right? I'll be very much interested in knowing that, because principle alone is not good enough. Values alone cannot be good enough to convince our Zimbabweans. They have shown in the past that they don't stand for anything, right? In corruption, you find them there, bribes, and they don't lead by example. Why would you expect them at this juncture, at this point in time, to say, oh, okay, you want you to vote, with us in a motion to remove MNANGAGWA because we feel he's incapacitated? Tell you what, guys, ZANU-PF MPs are better off dealing with MNANGAGWA, who is incapacitated, who doesn't know what he's doing, than a young, vibrant, powerful or president from ZANU-PF who is going to question them to say, hey, I need to look at your performance contract. How are you performing? Tatenda Matevera, do you think you are going to convince her to say, hey, Tatenda, you need to vote against your boss and the other guys who are not doing well? I think that's gonna be a mammoth task. Then the last point that I also wanted to mention is on ZANU-PF. My problem is ZANU-PF. So if you are going to have half-baked solutions to say, let's remove MNANGAGWA, it will be difficult for us to stop this vicious cycle. The cycle where we'll have someone coming from ZANU-PF pacifying us, right? Takakura isusu pandakakura hangu ndatisina mapacifiers andakupawo vana vangu iko zvino. Indai pacify wane chiguno. Handizivo imimi kuti maizvambisa sei. kuti kana momzi vasipo ndikaisa chigunwe changu kana ndotofungidzira kuti ndikutoyamwa mukaka paya paya but ndandiri kumedza mate angu but for vana munesu ikozvo ndakamuitira pacifier akatorovawo pacifier momzi vaizodzoka kubasa aribo. We cannot have these guys where someone will come today and say we want to impeach, right? If they were going to say let's impeach ZANU-PF, I would support them because you would expect on that document to include things like they rigged the election. So for that reason, and this was in complete violation of the constitution, and this can be corroborated and supported by the report from SADC. If they want witnesses to come through, right, we will have President Hichilema coming through to testify in our favor, and the guys who were responsible, for the drafting of the preliminary report or the final report, yes, SADC. So you can have those people, but they can't say that because these guys are complicit. ZANU-PF people are complicit. They can't say that. Right, so they will target MNANGAGWA today. That's Geza. Geza will target MNANGAGWA. After they've targeted MNANGAGWA, they will replace MNANGAGWA with someone who is resigned, tired, incapacitated again to lead us. Because why would you expect MNANGAGWA to be better when your chief justice is over 70, is not doing anything? When the army general who was appointed right now, the commander, right, over is 74, right? You look at him again, he's tired. So that's the trend that we have in Zimbabwe currently. So a solution that does not take ZANU-PF head on, a solution that is not going to remove ZANU-PF, I think it's half-baked. We're not going to achieve much with it. The last point. I know people will accuse me of saying, you are just saying these rhetorics, you are not providing solutions. The solution is, and I concur with my brother Owen Chari, we have power. The power is in the masses, in the people. Right, in us, the citizens. We cannot expect anyone to come and save us. No. Let's organize ourselves as progressives. Let's put away our political jackets. I know what Herbert stands for because I have followed him for some time. I know what Ango Gerard stands for. I know what Titus stands for, right? Let's come together and say, guys, this is what was happening back home is not what we believe. It's not something that we stand for. So what can we do to make sure that we motivate ourselves? We protest against government, against ZANU-PF as a terrorist organization, as an organization that has run down our country, that has seen us to be in the sorry state that we find ourselves in. And once we have removed ZANU-PF, now we pave way for democratic processes to take place where we can have a leader who has a social contract with the masses, a leader who knows that the power resides with the people. If you don't perform, people are going to remove you. Problem we have in ZANU-PF is if you are going to remove through an impeachment today and you have a savior mentality, there's a main actor, it will be difficult for you to remove that main actor in 2028. Because actually, 2 terms. And the amamupa inoende bonus, according to the constitution, right? Anotozanga kuti 1, 2028 is zvichienda. But no, zvikona 30, guys, tenge tiri pama 1. Let's fight to remove ZANU-PF. Otherwise, a beautiful space. Again, Ango Gerard, thank you so much. My brother Titus, we can't wait for a birthday. I think last year I did something and I'm going to do something big this time around, just you guys to support you, to show you the love and the appreciation that we have for you, my fellow comrades. Thanks.
Right. Thank you so much, Smarters, for that. Wow. You really packaged your submission in a way that you wanted to say you're against the impeachment. And to be fair, you put your reasons well across very, very well. I just want to quickly read a message here from one of my brothers who's saying he's in work. So he goes to say Geza is a team that's working 24/7, exploring all the possibilities. But the impeachment is not going to kick Emerson out this way. They know very well, but it's going to make a serious dent on Emerson's aspirations. The 2030 motion is now going to take a back seat and might be dead in water because there are time frames set about extension of terms, then referendums, which will also need time for consultation before the parliament, the vote, and the referendum, which are 2 referendums for him to benefit or get the extension that he requires. So when the processes of impeachment start to play out, time will be moving. We're already in April. And how much time does the parliament still have? Vakanyangira yaona, it's about muddying the waters for 2030 thing to die. So I think that's my brother's opinion there, to say this is all about just muddying 2030. But anyway, thanks for that. Okay, let's move on to right. Advocate, you want to say something, Herbert? Then I go to
Yeah,
Oscar
I'll be
after
yeah.
you.
Thank you. I'll be very quick. Zimbabweans, nature does not allow a vacuum to persist, especially here on Earth, right? What if inini ndikuti takambotamba macards aya mayati crazy 8 whatever you want to call them, pane chikadi chainzi joka chiya takakandirwa joka isusu neZANU PF because opposition forces, democratic voices were not there to really come up and say, this is how we are going to challenge ZANU PF outside the elections. Now, here's my hypothesis. ZANU PF comes up with 2030 mantra, MNANGAGWA anenge aripo, so that people can react to fight to stop MNANGAGWA from extending his term, or maybe changing the constitution for another term, the third term, so to speak. So in that sense now, you are preoccupied without knowing of a non-existent fight whereby you are told to choose between two devils. And naturally, people wouldn't want MNANGAGWA to persist because people have always thought, like Smarters was saying, people has always thought that the problem is the individual leader in ZANU PF. Yet the problem is actually the system. And we have seen that with the removal of Robert Mugabe in 2017. Now, you get preoccupied by your emotions being whipped up to say MNANGAGWA wants to extend his term. He will be there in 2030. Yet it's a preparation or a test run to see how people are, welcoming to VP Chiwenga. So a test run is made to see how people react on X, how people are going to warm up to General Chiwenga, etc., etc. And then you actually lose focus to the sense that it is ZANU PF that you want gone. So by the time people come out of this thing, ZANU PF would have collected data to say, okay, these are our chances, let's say, in the next elections. This is what people think of Chiwenga. This is a hypothesis. Instead of people focusing on the democratic forces. One of the things that I hoped for when Geza came out, I was happy when Geza came out. I thought that Zimbabweans, let's assume, and I'm not saying Geza was playing an act. Let's assume Geza was playing an act, number one. Or number two, let's assume that Geza was not playing an act and really wants MNANGAGWA gone and is fighting for Chiwenga to come in, as he says, that in this is an internal ZANU PF fight, right? I expected Zimbabweans to take that chance to come out en masse, but not at the behest or drive of Geza, but being opportunistic to say, okay, we found a guy who is speaking to protest. We're going to come out in protest, but we're going to demand more than what Geza is demanding. So then the situation would be uncontrollable, where you say, no, we are not just having a problem with Emmerson Mnangagwa. We actually have a problem with ZANU PF. We actually have a problem with anyone coming from ZANU PF. We need probably a transitional government, or we need a GNU. Okay, but now we are here, hosts. We are here. People are now talking of impeachment. Why have people supported the impeachment aspect? People know the evil of ZANU PF. But one of the things that people want to avoid is 2030. That's what people are scared of. A ZANU-PF, which is still led by Emerson Mnangagwa beyond 2028, is what people are really scared of. And people have actually thrown their heads to go with Geza because they want to take chances with maybe General Chwenga. So there's an element of hope where people can say, let's try again, like we did in 2017. If we get beaten, we get beaten. But this thing could not have happened if there was no vacuum. And we don't want to place it on a particular individual. Zimbabweans cannot cry over being organized by a certain individual. I'm sure that every Zimbabwean feels the pinch and they are unhappy. There were protests like the Arab Springs in most Arab countries. They were not driven by a central political figure. They were driven by individuals who felt that they are tired of the situation. So if people cannot react to Blessed Geza, Blessed Geza's call, I am appalled when people turn around and say, Mdara Geza akatipedzera nguva. You know, you and I, no one had the ability to stand up and even challenge. And then there's somebody who risked himself. Let's say this person is very, very true and honest in what he's doing. He's earnest in what he's doing. People did not respond. And then people did not respond. He's now saying, let's go to the next step. Like what happened in 2017. We know, Titus, that Mugabe did not step down because of the army tanks which rolled into the street. Mugabe did not step down because of the masses that came into the streets. He eventually stepped down because of a threat of impeachment. So we are almost at the same kind of approach to 2017. So as I'm going to land, impeachment, if you look at that document, I want to narrow it to one thing. Of course, they've put the matters of misconduct, which are put in that section. They've put other matters, but I want to narrow down on the matter of the medical record, which speaks to incapacitation. When there is somebody who is going to demonstrate or to come out with a document which then demonstrate that the president is incapacitated and truly is incapacitated according to medical records, it no longer leaves room for an opinion. That is automatic impeachment because that one, there's a medical record. The constitution is very, very clear about a president who is incapacitated. He cannot stand to debate that. The only thing he can stand to debate is to say this is a false medical record. And another thing which might be worrying is how that medical record was accessed. If the medical record was accessed in a manner which is not proper, right? Because we know that there are medical ethics, it would put some certain people in trouble. How did you manage to get this medical record? I think that's a question which needs to be raised. How did you manage to get this medical record? Did the medical practitioner snitch on the president? Did he leak? So what are the threats on the medical practitioner who was helping the president? Those are the questions which will be, surrounding this impeachment process. But having said that, if then the people who are driving the impeachment process are centering it on the mental status, the mental state of the president, definitely an independent observation would have to be done where the president can say, I want to demonstrate that I'm medically sound, I'm mentally sound. Which leads to the next question. Anosungirira bhero racho muhuro mekitsi ndiani kuti inini I'm a psychologist or a psychiatrist who is going to run a test, and when I'm going to run this test, I'm going to release a real, true diagnosis of the president. These are the questions, Titus and Dango Gerald, which need people to ask and need to be realistic with the current situation in Zimbabwe, the political situation in Zimbabwe, where information is suppressed and people cannot act professionally and in an independent way. Which medical practitioner would come forward to say, I'm going to operate in the truest sense of a professional? and I'm not going to be biased. I'm going to release true diagnosis. Who would be willing to do that? Who would be willing to put their their life, their family on the line? These are the questions maybe that people would need to discuss. So it's a tall order in terms of impeachment regarding the matter of the medical diagnosis and also the misconduct. We don't know who is willing to stand in parliament, from which side, and if it fails, what are the hazards contained in terms of this thing. We are going to face MNANGAGWA and these boys who is achasungirira bhero muromi Kitsindiani. So I thought what would be better was people were going to snatch this moment of Geza, chero uri moto wemapepa, moto wacho ubva watobaka zvokutobaka zvakasingafungirwe, chinhu chotoita sei chotoenderera mberi. So thank you so much, Uncle Gerard and Titus.
Right, much appreciate Advocate Herbert for that. Oh, okay. Ronnie, you've got your hand up. You want to come through?
Thank you, Titus. Good evening, everyone. I just came up to after I've been listening to what Advocate is saying. I just want to push back a little because there are things like I'm glad that you said that it's just a hypothesis. So I know that you understand where I'm coming from. I don't agree with the opinion that it might have been a trial run because after the elections, ZANU-PF started to decimate the opposition. They did that for a good reason. The way they did that is, you remember, there was a time when MNANGAGWA started speaking of the 2030 thing. Then it went on. It's something that we like in the plans. Because if you look at it, there's so many reasons why you need to go there or beyond. The man is of age or Kuramshagwe, and he has a lot of skeletons in his closet, and he doesn't trust his number two. So it's not like the need to keep on looting. I think he's wealthy now, but it's about the security. Because if you remember what Comrade Keza put out, he said like this guy was poisoned and this guy. So there's a lot of suspicion between the two of them. That's why he went on to remove the clothes. Because running
Ronnie,
clothes,
you,
it's as
Ronnie, you kind of you're going in and out a little bit on your mic. Better what you
sorry.
said like when you speak.
All right, just give me a sec. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
Right. What I was saying was, what happened is the running mate clause was as good as the safeguard that's in the constitution about the incumbent benefiting from the amendment, because having a run mate would have made sure that the number two was a shoe in case something happens to the number one. So removing that, it's also protecting yourself, like what he did with that amendment, which took off the running mate. So to now say that probably we might be like in a situation whereby they wanted to find out how is this going to warm up to a proposition of the general taking over. It's something that I don't agree with, because if you look at it, he started to make sure that the general does not have any power, because had he gone into the election with the general as a running mate, you would effectively been like equivalent of an elected official. But in this case, is appointed, so he can manage that. Then the second thing is the old man has lots of skeletons in his closet. He did things when he was young, and he doesn't trust his number two. He doesn't trust the people that will take over. So what will happen is, if he extend his reign, then he's going to groom a successor who he trusts and make sure that he deals with the general. So this 2030 thing was real or is real, so that in case he dies or someone who is going to take over later, when he's like in his like afternoon of his life, very late in his life, there's not much that can happen to him, because the person that is going to take off, it will be something of his choice, not his number two. So I go back to what I said, Titus, earlier about this petition coming to parliament to be debated. It's like it was a multi-pronged process or plan, whereby there was that one. If you remember, since Geza started speaking, Garwe actually went to Mbako. He only came back uh, after the March the 31st, and he is not talking about 2030. 2030 for now is something that they've all been silent about of late, because it's something that they are not sure of where it's going. But the truth is, whatever that is happening, it's pushing or moving us towards a position whereby these petitions will buy time. It's not an issue that they're going to succeed and get this guy out of office. Like Advocate has said, he said that if the medical documents or medical certificates which are available, which whoever has them, they cannot be admissible if they were not obtained lawfully. And like you truly pointed out, that who is that medical practitioner who is going to stand up and say, I have evaluated this guy, and this guy doesn't seem to have a capacity to make sensible or to make any like decisions. Who is that person? That person is not there. It would be debated in parliament. The first thing is, get it to parliament and get it like talked about. Unless if it dies on arrival, then it will buy them time. But the whole thing is to keep on pushing time and move as much time or let as much time pass, so that this 2030 thing, when it starts, it doesn't have enough time. If you remember, or if you listen to Maduku when you spoke a month ago about this thing, Madu said that you would need to have time for the consultations. You would then need the parliament to debate, then the bill, then you would need to have that in a certain number of days. So they were saying like the process would be like the first process would be like 6 months. Then there's need for time between those two bills. So by the time that we get there, would there be enough time to get to the next election? That's something. So I'm saying the plan of Geza's team and his other people, it was multi-pronged, but the goal is to kill the 2030. That's how I see it. It's not like that I'm speaking from the position of like informed or what. It's just my analysis on the whole thing. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ronnie, for that. Okay, different way of looking at it. Thanks, my brother, for that. Can I go to Skumbuzo?
Thank you, Move Titus. Uncle Gerard, how are you? Hello, maybe he's gone or he's busy. I just had a suggestion. And first, I just wanted to thank you guys, Moff and you, Titus, what you guys have been doing. It's an amazing job. I think, especially in this era where, you had the alternative voices, such as the Voice of America, which used to, afford people a chance to hear the other side of what's happening as far as the discourse on the Zimbabwean body politic is concerned. And ever since it was removed, it could have been a one way. You guys, not insisted on and insisted and sustained what you are doing. It would have been one way, I repeat, where people are going to be churned out with that propaganda, the one-sided story, which is not really balanced. So I just want to say thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. And I also had a suggestion. Maybe you guys can think of maybe turning this thing into some sort of a think tank, where if you've got a government, where the government there in Zimbabwe, probably if produce a document or they produce a policy position, you guys maybe can just come up and also, put your views, either to debunk what they are saying or to critique, what those guys would be a advocate. I want to touch on one issue that was, I think, addressed by Advocate Herbert. When he says, when he talked about the 2030 election, the 2030 mantra, that's being talked about by some PF. Gentlemen, I think it's important for us to understand that this 2030 is not about Mnangagwa getting a third term. It is about postponing an election that is supposed to happen in 2028. So these guys they want to run away from that issue of, to say the incumbent can't benefit if want to amend the constitution so that you can have, if the president can have 3 terms. So now because the constitution precludes the person who's in office from benefiting from that, as well as the issue of the referendum. So they're saying, no, the only way we can do this is let's postpone elections. And by them postponing elections, they know that the current crop of MPs, especially from the opposition, they will support the idea. Like what once Smart has mentioned, most of these guys, they will know that if an election is going to be held today, they won't come back. So if ZANU-PF is going to come with that plot, say let's postpone elections with another 2 years, and these guys during that time of the 2 years, they get to get new cars, they get to get another 40,000 like what they once got, so they will get a buy-in. And you would remember Titus, that there was one voice note, I think, that was being circulated in which one of the MPs was boasting that he's gonna get 200,000, and that they would definitely vote for it, that the elections will be postponed by another 2 years, meaning that this current parliament and the president, they will have to be in power for about 7 years before we go for another election. So that's how they want to play out this 2030 thing. Then a talk about issue with impeachment. It's important for us to understand. Remember, impeachment is not a, what can I call it, a judicial or a court process. Like what would happen. They would bring the president in court. Then when he's brought in there, they read the charge sheet. He has got his lawyers. There's someone to adjudicate. They hear a president sides of the argument. There's also the prosecutor now who's laying the charges against the president. Impeachment does not kind of work like that. It's more of a political process. Because if you would, maybe I'll give you an example of what happened in South Africa. Remember, Ramaphosa wanted to be impeached, and he went on to challenge, the findings of that, what they call it, that Section 89 inquiry. His application was thrown out on the basis that, remember, impeachment is a political process. So what that means now is the MPs and the like in the case of Zimbabwe, the senators, they can simply decide to impeach a president because they don't like him. Not that he has done any violation of the constitution, but the fact that they don't like him. Let me give you an example of how the impeachment can pan out. Let's say one president, like for example, there's another gentleman who doesn't have a party, goes on to an election, he gets a lot of votes, he becomes president. But he doesn't have party, doesn't control parliament. Another part controls parliament, and the other part controls also, that same part controls the Senate. So what that part can do is, on their first sitting, those people can have item number one on the agenda is to impeach the president. They will impeach the president and remove him from office. And there is no way where the president, can go and seek recourse. President obviously naturally they want to go to court and say, no, there was nothing that I violated, nothing, sorry, so whatever. But still, you will have a big mountain, to climb. So that issue that the advocate Herbert, was mentioning about it, sometimes, there will be an issue of contention to say, Marigoza president, he is not fit because he's got this particular type of dementia, like that was mentioned. It may not be relevant at that point in time, because people can simply take a political position. They impeach the president, then they vote if they get the required numbers, which is 2/3, if I'm not mistaken, then they can chuck him out of office. I think that's what I wanted to say. Thank you, Moftatas.
Right. Thank you so much, Skumbozo. Guys,
Tata, before you go, I think the previous speakers mixed up between two concepts. I just wanted to clarify in a
just
minute.
under a minute here, but because
Yeah, just under a minute. So there's something which is called the vote of no confidence and impeachment. So I really don't have time to go into those details. So he just mixed up the two. So if there's no misconduct, the parliament can decide to remove the president through a vote of no confidence, which is also covered within the constitution itself. And then impeachment is very particular about A, B, C, D, which talks of serious misconduct, failure to obey, uphold, or defend the Constitution, willful violation of the Constitution, inability to perform his duties because of physical or mental incapacity. So those are two different issues. The vote of confidence has got its own procedures. Impeachment has got its own procedures. Thank you.
Even impeachment, you can impeach without a charge.
All right. Okay, Herbert. Well, thanks for the explanation. So, guys, because we pre-agreed stuff, I think we need to close less. Maybe we can go on to 9:30 UK time. So, got 25 minutes. I'll give you just if you can just take the mic, Mongo to gaga each one and everyone, so that we can hear. Can I go to Mnyaradzi? Mnyaradzi. Okay, Mnyaradzi, I don't know if you're speaking because your mic is unmuted, but on this one's what? All right. Okay, still can't hear you. All right, can I try Tonde? Tonde. Right, guys. Murundin's where are my mics?
Yes, just impeach them, my brother. Impeach them all.
Steve K, take the mic then.
Okay. To be honest, this one is going to be difficult for me. Can you hear me, Tateras?
Yes, I can.
Oh, that's good then. My system is working. This one is going to be difficult to really go for, because how do you, at this moment in time, if you look at our parliament and what's happening there and how they conduct themselves, who is to say that not only MNANGAGWA does not have capacity to be able to recollect and deal with our issues in Zimbabwe? So there is a lot of kind of like really things that we need to look at, and I've been kind of like listening and thinking here to say, so who impeach in Zimbabwe? Is it the people of Zimbabwe, or is it the people who are in parliament? If it is the people who are in parliament or who are around thereabout, then we are in trouble then, because we can't really rely in any of those in any of those people who are around there. So the impeachment is going to be tough. It is really, it is going to be tough unless the people of Zimbabwe can do so. And how can we do it if even by ourselves here we are not one? You see, we are not in sync, and we do not have good structures that we can actually do it for ourselves. So I think for me is to let us start from there. Let's understand what are the processes, what do we have, what does it mean to us as people of Zimbabwe, where do we start from? Did you see? And then we go from there. We can't really trust in any of the politicians right now. For me, anyway, from where I am, anyone at all who goes into that China house, we don't trust them, because we know that they are there because they want to be there. And a few days ago, we really I heard them saying that even the opposition have no power to do anything. They are going there to sing Kumbaya, la la la, whatever they're doing. They're just there to sit. They can't change anything. So how are they going to impeach anyone if they're not even being listened to, or if their hands are kind of like cut off? So yeah, so for me is to ask, can the people of Zimbabwe impeach MNANGAGWA? That would be my question. And then we can start from there, because we are not getting anything from China House. I can tell you that for free. China House is theirs. We just watch them on top of that mountain and live with it. So for me, that's where we are. And yes, obviously from what we can see right now, yeah, MNANGAGWA is suffering from something. Is it dementia? I do not know. But yeah, but we need really to start to think of who can do it, because yeah, our legislators cannot do it. So yeah, so thank you so much, and I'll give it to other people. And happy birthday to the guy who lied to us that today was his last day, and I hope that his team loses on Sunday.
Yeah. Team. Anyway.
Okay.
You are punishing millions and millions of people over one person.
Yes, exactly.
The boy is always losing. You know, better.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway, no, thanks, Steve K. Can I go to Blessing, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Uncle Jed, Mkoma Titus. Just a few issues in terms of nyaya yana Mr. Geza. The issue which I have is that I think we are going into a cycle or a recycle. We are not really understanding the main objective of how to deal with a situation which is facing Zimbabwe as a nation since independence. I think it's more like a culture, not just because of politicians, but just because of our way we believe in things and our way we deal with each other, our interactions, and the way we utilize our experience and our education in terms of what we have learned at school, even abroad, even in situations that are similar in other countries. Because if you look at our situation at hand, it is a situation whereby every Zimbabwean citizen, what they've been fighting for, even before independence, is for freedom. It's for a clear, open space where people can speak out, people can have opportunities, people can engage in things that gives them more opportunities and also rebuild the country. But the problem that we are having is that since that colonial era, coming into independence, that impediment has never been removed. With each preceding government, you find that the politicians, they come with their own impression, they come with their own promises, they come with their own constitutions, which, if you look at it, in most cases, it's quoted. It's not in its real form. The citizens, they are only taken for granted at the last minute just to sanitize the constitution, which they have no clear understanding of what it means, what it constitutes. So this problem is not about ZANU-PF, it's not about the military. It's about failure of us as citizens to account every process, even our leadership. We don't want even to account our leadership. We don't even account ourselves. How do we fight for pride in ourselves or in things that we do as people? So that's my issue, because if you look at 2017, I think there was a discussion before the military. There was engagement within the broader spectrum of the political arena. And there was a unanimous agreement that we have got to avoid a clear, full-scale coup, but let's do it in such a way that the outside world won't leave us isolated, because we'll have been classified as a country which has gone through coup. So there was a unanimous agreement that let's approach Mugabe in this route and in this way, and it worked out. But going further after that independence, we discovered that there was no proper systematic of agreements within the process of what people wanted to achieve after the coup. There was no real objective of what the politicians wanted the country to move towards. What was the agreed objective? There was nothing. It was just things that were discussed verbally with no concrete legal agreements in place. So when the coup happened, ZANU-PF took it to itself, and the opposition was left dumbfounded. So this time again, ZANU-PF have got their own challenges, which they created as well, where you give power to one person. There is no accountability. There is no framework to deal with the complaints, to deal with the challenges with the presidium or with any other committees. Issues of incompetency, issues of ineffectiveness. So these are paramount issues that any prospective government should always have in place before going into any procedure to take power. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that these scenarios should educate Zimbabweans, whereby if we were accountable to the leaders that we select, that we vote for, we wouldn't have been having much problem in removing a leader, because it will be through procedural, easy, straightforward procedural. But because now these short routes that we take, and also lack of understanding of the power vested in the people, is what gives us all these challenges that we fail to deal with them, because there's no clear framework to deal with those issues. There's no legal framework to deal with our political contestation. And then when we talk about the military, we always talk about the military without engaging the military, without any conversation that really confronts the military, its role in our constitution, its role in protection of our citizens and our borders. So it has become an issue whereby, at the moment, nobody understands the role of our military in our safety. We don't know who the military serves. We don't know who, even the MPs that we elect as people in our constituencies, whom do they serve? What is that is expected of them when we are with them or when we meet them in our constituencies? So these are things that we avoid to discuss, to talk, and to implement and to put in place such that even if the executive fails to have a conversation with the electorate, you still have those channels where you have authority, you have accountability with your constituencies, with your MPs, with your councillors, with your senators. So they would hold the executive to account. But now that we have failed to bring that framework into our frame, you find that the judiciary, which is supposed to be an independent framework, which also accounts the executive, is non-independent. It is controlled by the executive. And then if you look now again at the institutions of governance in terms of police, intelligence, security apparatus, all those things, instead of them being independent and within the constitution of our country, they are run by an individual. That whoever takes power is in full control of the military. So there's no professionalism. There is no legal framework that resonates with the demands of the role of those institutions. So the citizens are left exposed.
If you
in the
prefer to
sense
learn,
that-
my brother.
Yeah, I'm gonna learn down.
Okay.
So all I'm just trying to say is that as Mr. Geza is also trying to talk about all these things, is he engaging all the political spheres? Because the lack of cooperation, the lack of activism in terms of what they want to do and all those things, it tells something that there's no conversation within the labor movement, within all other civic society, within even ZANU-PF itself. Because if those things are in place and there is a roadmap which is to deal with the aftermath of the coup or the aftermath of removing MNANGAGWA, then how do we deal with this whole thing as a nation? There's no framework so far which I've heard from him or from any other person. So it bothers me quite a lot where we are going. It seems like we are not really constituting anything as a populace, as citizens of the country. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, Nkoma Blessing, for that. Appreciate. Thank you. Okay. Can I go to Sir then Munyarazi in that order, please?
Okay, thank you very much, Jerry. I just want to have a comment on what our Blessing has actually said. Okay, I think there are some very good points that he raised in terms of the engagement that Mr. Geza was supposed to have done with other political parties for him to get a momentum in terms of support. But from my observation, I think it's also important to also recognize opportunity when it comes, because that lack of engagement is confirming that these guys, from the Geza's point of view, they don't want political infiltration, which is the same thing which destroyed the 2017 movement. And that's why we saw a lot of guys who were very powerful, like the like of Smith Stomo, they are gone because of that. So I think as the citizens, we must also take an opportunity, because right now, if Geza is to go and take and maybe probably whatever he's doing is being supported, it means to say we are not going to have a lot of politicians coming in and infiltrate. And at the end of the day, it will become the citizens, the movement. And that's when we should start to build on our own structures. So I think that's an angle that people should also take it from. Because right now, I want to be honest with you. If the power is to be taken from the likes of MNANGAGWA to another, who is going to run with that one with the support of the other politicians? Because we saw a lot of politicians, likes of Jonathan Moyo, were destroyed by that 2017 issue. And if we are also going to take away from MNANGAGWA, then we are going to throw away a lot of politicians, and then the thing will be moving toward the citizens. So I think, from my own understanding, as people, we should also try to see the opportunity and try to support Geza in whatever he's doing, because I think time is now on our advantage. That's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there's more to meet the eye with this Comrade Bombshell story. But no, thank you so much, sir. Can I go to Munyaradzi? Right. Munyaradzi, are you speaking? Because hakuna chiri kubuda this side. Nothing is coming out. Right.
Hello?
Munyaradzi, I think. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Munyaradzi.
Yeah, undinzwaka.
Yeah, wakunzwika, please go ahead.
Hello, thank you. Okay, thank you, Titus. Thank you, Uncle Jeds. This wonderful space, Yamatiba. I think Comrade Geza Pawaka need this program. I think it was a blessing in disguise in other way, in the sense of Zimbabweans on the grounds in Zimbabwe. There's a big movement iri mumwoyo mevanhu inodarika mazita emapato, mazita emachechi, mazita ema-individuals yandingade kuti Zimbabwe grieving movement. It means munhu nemunhu akaremerwa kana kuti munhu nemunhu ari kuchema misodzi yeropa nemaomero akaita zvinhu munyika, ende zvichiramba zvichiwedzera, uye vanotungamirirana ED neZANU-PF vachiramba vachiwedzera maronda kana kuwedzera sauti pazvironda zvevanhu zviri kudzimba. So kubuda kwakaita Geza kwakaratidza vanhu, kwakaratidza kuti vanhu varatidze kuti havazi kufara nezviri kuitika munyika uye havachafarira kana kuti havachada. Vakambotanga vasingade 2030, but nekurwadziwa kuri kuita vanhu vari kuti it's better ED aende for good, zvimwe zvinhu zvingaite nani. Comrade Geza vakauya nechirongwa chakanaka, asi sezvambotaura nevamwe matauri kuti pakanenge pasina kuzoita coordination or collaboration nevamwe, hazvisi kunyatsoratidza kuti vane kamwe kakubatana nevamwe vanhu vataifungidzira kana kuti vanofungidzirwa nevana veZimbabwe kuti vangave vanhu ivavo vari involved. Because kana pachiitwa nyaya idzi kazhinji dzinotarisirwa kunzi padzinoitwa kana dzozosvika papublic domain, mastrategies ese anenge arongwa zvokuti hadzidzi nyaya dzokuti dzinenge dzichinzi nhasi chataurwa nepapa, mangwana yataurwa nepapa, mangwana, because unenge uchingwadza muvengi, zvokuti kana wamungwadza muvengi uyo kana akuzokudzorerai ndo patinozoedza matende kuIrosi yega, takuti nhasi taenda kuIrosi, mangwana taenda kuIrosi, mangwana taenda, because tinenge takaita kumungwadza, because taida kuti kana vaGezi vakanga vakaronga, uye sekufunga kwedu kuti pane vanenge vane masimba anovatsigira, taida kubva chanzi chichirongwa chichiputika, zvairatidza zve kuti masi evanhu, majority 99% yeZimbabweans inotsigira enowana anoda kuti idhi nemhuri yake nezvigananda zviende. But pakaita pakuya pavakazointrodusa nyaya yeimpeachment, panenge pakaratidza kuti panenge paakuda kuita kamazano anenge akuita achipera, because impeachment kazhinji inoshanda ndokunge mune nhamba kunyanya maparliamentarians enyu ari kudivi renyu. Zvino nemaziro atinoita politics dzemuZimbabwe ndedzedumbu, vamiriri veparliament kazhinji vanotarisa kuri kuuya huchi nemukaka, kune mari, kune simba, kana kuti kuri kuvhuvhutira mhepo. Saka nemamiriro akaita zvino munoona kuti vamiriri veparliament ndingavape zita rekuti zvidzoi, zvezvokuti paunoraura, even chirauro chakabatwa nedatya chinongoita kunge chabata hove, paunozodzura paunoona kuti idatya. maparliamentarians edu haatarise zvido zvevanhu, anotarisa zvinobhenefita ivo. Havatarise kuti nyika yedu zvinonakira vanhu ndezvipi. Saka paimpeachment apa, even vakada kuti ite go ahead, inovapa mukana wekuita kuti painoenda vanoziva kuti inonofoira, because ma-MP vanopihwa mota, vanopihwa dzimba, mastenzi, vane mabenefits akawanda avanowana vanhu ivavo kana vari kuchikomo kwavari chemachina ichi. So impeachment yakaenda yakanzi yafoira kana kuti yarambwa, zvinoita kunge pasimbiswa kunzi saka vanhu vanoda ED, but in real fact muZimbabwe hakuna munhu anoda ED, vanhu vagumbuka naED. Ndopedzera nekuti politics dzemuZimbabwe dzedu hadzizi politics dzekunana South Africa, Botswana nedzimwe nyika naKenya. Tinotongwa nemilitary government, ine face yecivilian but imilitary government. Munoona kunzi joke risiri pamutemo. Constitution yeZimbabwe haina bazi rehurumende inonzi joke, but that bazi rine power rakanyanyisa, saka ndio rinonyanyoshandiswa nevanotungamira, ndio rine madecisions, ndio rine zvese. Saka unoona kuti kana Mnangagwa achiri akabata pajoke, ane power rekuita zvaanoda nesu. Munoona kuti even ma-institutions atinawo, dzingave hurumende, ma-departments, mune ma-military personnel, ma-serving. Those people vanotorwa mabharaki vonzi you are seconded kunoshanda kuZeki. Ndombopa example yekuti munoziva kuti kuZeki kwamboshanda murume ainzi Douglas Nyika Yaramba, aive musoja. That time aive brigadier general kuGweru, akanzi you are seconded to Zeki, unoita chief election officer, but akanga ari musoja. Akanotungamira ma-elections a2002 na2006. Apera akazonza tamupromota achienda kwaMutare, unoita brigadier general, azobva ikoko akazonoita major general. Ndo mashandiro anoita ZANU-PF. Even if you compare Selaigwana, is a serving member, he's not a retired. He is a serving member seconded to Zeki. Tine zvinhu zvakawanda zviri mugovernment zvaunoti uri kudhila nemucivilian, but uchidhila nemunhu atione payslip 2 yekunzi Zimbabwe National Army nekuchidepartment chavari kushanda. Saka rimwe dambudziko, but zviombe zvatinoona muZimbabwe semamiriro akaita zvino, masses vanhu ezvinozvi vagumbuka, vanhu vari kuda change, vanhu vari kuda shanduko. I think unity iripo pari zvino kuvanhu, tisingataure zve-leadership, because pa-leadership hatina leadership, but vanhu vakabatana kudarika vanhu e-leadership, because kazhinji leadership dzimwe nguva inoya ichidivide vanhu, vachitukana, vachiblackmaila, but makatarisa nenhau yenhamo yaine vanhu mwana womuZimbabwe, people are more united than pamwe pese apa. So I think with this platform yakaita yenyu Uncle Gerard Jeds, tinokumbira kuti irambe iriko. Tanga tatogumbuka kwazvo, taane stress, tatopa BP mati makuivharisa, but tinotenda icharamba iripo. Ndakaona maplatform akaita seaya kuKenya is working well. Manje kuKenya kuna anonzi mareplica.
If you can lend, sorry, if you can lend, we need to tatine mama program before, so if you can lend.
Okay, thank you.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Yeah, sorry guys. There was some, birthday uncle, so I'm my program so got some people around. So yeah, we really appreciate, but we need to bring it to a close. So I'll just give a Child of Zim to come through and say your closing remarks.
Okay, good evening everyone. Maswera say atoma kusenga mamuka say where I am going. First, happy birthday, Uncle Jeta. May God bless you and may you continue to bless your life. For everything that you do for us. Then going straight into the impeachment thing. Impeachment kana munhu. Okay, let's be just realistic people. Let's stop being whatever profession we are. Kana munhu anzi haachakwanisi kuva mentally able to do or make decisions. Can that person lead a country? The minute you start thinking of things like that, that would tell you as a normal person, Kuti, the odds are in their favor. As long as they've got an initial medical report from a government medical officer. That I think is the most important thing that we have to look for. Otherwise, Uncle Jeza, enjoy your birthday.